Welcome to the HyperFast Show. I am so excited to have Jason Fladlien here. He wrote the book One to Many, which is about selling to the masses, right?
Via
and
webinars.
is the genius when it comes to doing webinars. I am extremely interested in learning from you and grateful that you're here today. So thank you.
All right, what do you want to learn?
So there's a few different types of webinars I'm thinking about, and you work with people in all different industries, right?
Yeah,
So a lot of our audience is in real estate.
perfect.
We have some agents, some lenders, people who are doing title, all that sort of thing, but primarily residential real estate.
Excellent.
So if you were us and you wanted to get it to the point, in the very beginning of your presentation, you said, make sure the webinar accomplishes all of your goals, right?
Right.
Basically that you're able to plug that into your system and roll with it. What audience would you go after first?
So I would go after the audience that individually has been most successful for me. And
Okay.
so let's say for whatever reason that, Christian conservatives are just crushing it for you. You could just sell houses to them like that.
Okay.
I would take what I know about that audience individually and I would craft a presentation so that way hundreds or thousands of people in my geographic area or even worldwide could see that and potentially do business with me. So, for example, with you, is there a particular market that you have stronger affinity to than other markets or a market that works the best for you?
Yeah, so we segment really well. I'll tell you the market
Good.
that I started out with. For webinars, this might not be as good.
We'll find out.
Senior citizens that have homes to sell that are worried about doing renovations and doing work. I went after that market because I wanted to be able to get the new construction builders, and I recognized those lots were the bait that I needed to attract the builders.
Smart. So 2 ways you could use a webinar in that situation. And one I would probably do before the other one. But the first way is to go direct to consumer, in this particular case, senior citizens. And I know the kickback is, well, maybe they don't use the internet.
That's exactly what I was
Maybe
thinking.
they're not
You're
sophisticated.
anticipating, yeah.
However, most of our data actually shows that that is not true.
Okay.
Okay, so you want bigger fonts and you want more easy to use web pages, and there's a lot of ways that you can do that. You should keep that simple anyway. I think people make it way too complicated.
Okay.
We were eating with a very smart marketer at lunch today, and he showed us the landing page that he thought was the most successful, and we were all like, ooh, that's ugly.
It's super ugly,
Yeah.
but it's converting like
It's
crazy.
converting better than any other one. So
Yep.
keep it simple, keep it easy. But there's another webinar you could consider running too. You said you went after the builders aggressively.
Yes.
Tell me more about that.
Sure. So my background was in new home sales, and I have a list, which I still have today,
Smart.
of all of the people that are part of the Builder Association in my community.
Nice.
And so what I would do whenever I got one of these lots, I would shoot a video of myself talking about the approximate neighborhood,
Smart.
where I felt the profit margin I felt they could achieve, and I would invite them to contact me.
Yeah.
So I was just like baiting them. And I knew that land was the hardest thing, and I had the experience to sell. So what was unique and differentiated me is I had the land that they wanted.
Yeah.
And I wasn't one of the agents that is, I only want a listing over $2 million, right? Which is typically the new construction agent.
Okay.
So the builder's biggest problem with that agent is they're lazy, they won't go out and get the land, but they happen to be educated enough to sell the product. Because of my background, I was willing to do both.
Excellent. So you were doing this pretty much, you were teasing the builder to contact you, you were selling them in person, and that's how you kind of forced this into existence, right?
Correct.
So
Yeah.
I would take that same concept and say, if I couldn't talk to them one-to-one and I could only show them via a digital webinar, what would I put in that webinar? What would I say? How would I...
To the builder?
To the builder.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so the really powerful thing about that is you can duplicate your efforts.
Sure.
So that way you don't have to necessarily be trapped just to one-on-one.
Yep.
But even better than that is there may be a person that you can't reach one-on-one. So you can still do one-on-one, but you can Hail Mary it. Hey, listen, I know you don't want to meet me in person, but please do me a favor. Since you won't meet with me personally, just watch this video. And then if you think I'm insane after watching this webinar, then you never have to talk to me again. However, I think you're going to really enjoy this. And the good news is we don't have to waste each other's time. You can just watch it whenever you wish to. And then if it rings true for you, contact me. And,
Awesome.
and that's great, because even though it's maybe watched individually as a webinar, you might pick them up one person at a time watching it. You have a marketing tool, not just a sales tool now. So it'll complement your selling, but it can replace parts of your selling that otherwise, if you can't meet two builders at the same exact time, or if you're on vacation, or if they're on vacation, you'd be amazed at when people will watch videos, especially if they're presented as webinars and not just as standalone video that you can watch.
Anybody could, yeah.
A video is something you watch on YouTube.
Right.
So a webinar is something that we specifically make feel like an event that's excited and that's exclusive and that's available for a limited time.
Sure,
And that's
and
the
I
difference.
created this for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Even better, right?
Yep.
So in that, I'll just give you one more tip on that.
Yeah,
I would
please.
literally say we are limiting the access to who can watch this webinar. And so here's your code. You have to put this
Yeah.
code in to unlock the webinar.
Okay.
And if you don't use this code by this date, then the code expires.
Okay.
And that forces consumption. Otherwise, people will put it on a list to one day, someday, maybe watch, maybe do.
Sure.
And that's really powerful if you take that kind of exclusivity approach. And by the way, it might be very true, because there's probably competitors that if you did business with one, it would be harder to do business with the other.
Yep.
And so that's actually built into the system. But I would do both webinars. Obviously, I say that because I do webinars for a living, so it's easier for me than most people. But there are plenty of audiences where you can do a specific communication to. 80% of your webinar would be exactly the same, whether you go to this customer segment or that customer segment.
Yes.
The 20% that would be different would be the customization specifically to their wants and their needs and their desires. And so it's a good way to duplicate yourself. So you could have 5 or 6 or 7 slightly different presentations, but each one is saying, hey, you being a different audience.
Right. So
And-
your avatar is going to change, but the bulk of what you're saying is yeah. So
Right.
for us, I was thinking, Sam gave a statistic at the event that we're at, and he said, 60% of the buyers last year were first-time home buyers.
Yeah, I heard
so
that.
Automatically, I'm thinking, okay, how do I develop the right webinar for first-time home
Easy,
buyers?
easy.
And then yes, so I'm thinking that's going to be the easiest one.
So that's a market segment, right?
Yes.
You're
Yeah.
a first-time home buyer. What do you do? How do you buy a home in an intelligent manner where it's easy, it's fun, it's enjoyable, and you don't get taken advantage of or make really bad decisions?
Right.
Okay, this webinar is going to show you exactly how to do that. Now, whether at the end of the webinar you choose to do business with us or somebody else, you're still going to be better off than you were before you joined this webinar.
Huge.
And that's really powerful, because, and this is why I like webinars. You give value in advance of asking them to do something for you. So a lot of businesses call me and then I'll service you, or do something for me, then I'll do something for you, right? And the webinar is a very efficient way of saying, let me first do something for you independent of whether you do something for me. And normally that's not possible, because if you went around doing favors for everybody individually, you'll be broke and miserable. And people will like you, but they'll take advantage of you. That's just what they do. It's human nature. This is a way where you can do favors for other people, but do it efficiently.
Yeah.
Because you create it one time and then you can keep giving that favors. But yeah, education in advance of sales increases sales and increases satisfaction. And so you would sit down and you would say, hey, this is how I would write the webinar. I'd picture in my mind the person that I love the most, who had never bought a house before,
Yep.
who was about ready to buy a house.
Yep.
And I would write that webinar for them.
So it's extremely personal, a lot of empathy of what they're going through.
Yep.
A lot of like, this is a struggle, this is a mistake that people make, and I want to prevent you from making that mistake.
Yep.
So you're really having a one-on-one conversation,
Correct.
but
But
you're just duplicating the heck out of it.
Thousands of people could be watching
So
it.
you know what else I thought of when I was going through in my mind, like, oh my gosh, I have to do this?
Yeah.
I thought, it would be exceptional, because I have a huge team. What would be exceptional as a service to my team, for the team leaders out there,
Correct.
is if I set it up so that they did the webinar, and then afterwards they go onto a landing page.
Yep.
And they fill out all of the details, and they do it individually if it's a couple.
Yep.
So you actually find out where they're both starting out,
Correct.
and you make it fun, like a quiz. And then for us, the presentation is a 3-part process. There's the needs analysis.
Yep.
There's the buyer presentation, which would then become
The webinar.
the webinar.
Yep.
And then the last piece is a reality check analysis. And
I like
that's
this.
when you take all of their needs and you actually show them the sold comps. So I used to always believe, okay, always face-to-face, always face-to-face. But with the first-time homebuyer segment, I'm interested in testing it if the last part of the process is a Zoom.
Yeah. It's worth a shot, especially for, I mean, if millennials now make up the bulk of first-time home buyers, which I don't know if that's true or not. I think that's what was said from there.
60%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and it resonates with me why that would be.
So their media is more, they don't do their shopping in person. They do it on an app on Amazon. So their reality is we don't need to be personal in order to do business with each other. Now,
No.
best by test. I'm for whatever makes the most money. If you say, hey, listen, pigeon carriers are right now performing better than any other type of media, we're doing pigeon carriers. Okay, I'm just going to say it. But the idea here is even if you make that person easier to deal with when you hand them over to a team member, or even if you can collect any amount of data in one location prior to the team member having to do data collection.
Well, they can do the research on the reality check before they jump on that Zoom.
That's
so
what I'm saying.
They're going to be like dialed in.
Yep. So literally, you're making their job easier to service the client, which therefore makes the client experience better.
Yeah.
And that is a cycle, a positive feedback loop where everybody wins.
Yeah.
And that is because we have shifted the education in front of the conversation.
Yeah.
Right now, all the education almost that exists is once you call and talk to the real estate agent.
Sure.
And
yeah.
that is the least efficient way of doing it. So if we can push information in front of the conversation, we'll have better conversations, we'll have better clients, and we'll have a reason for people to choose us as opposed to anybody else. Because, I mean, right now, half the way that people select a real estate agent is, oh, my brother-in-law said this guy, can buy a house for me.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's like flipping a coin. And the house is the biggest purchase for most people that they'll ever make in their life. And your due diligence as a consumer boils down to, well, so-and-so, they can buy and sell houses. Let's use them. Because how else are they going to figure it out?
Yeah.
This is how they figure it out. They say, oh, wow, now I'm making an informed decision because I'm listening and getting educated. And, in every industry, doesn't matter what industry it's in, if we can take them behind the counter so they can be on our side of the business, not just, if you visualize it like this, the old school days of when you'd go into a convenience store, you're behind the counter and the other person's on the other side of the counter.
Yep.
And you're kind of facing each other.
Yeah.
We want to take them behind the counter. So we want to kind of spill the secrets of how the industry works. This is the typical way that this industry is run. Here's why that might not be so good for you as a consumer. Right. Here are some of the issues that are commonplace that we don't agree with, but unfortunately we see far too often in the industry. It's not what we stand for, but it's what happens. And I don't care what industry you're in.
It's just the way,
There are industry norms, and those industry norms are always created to be the easiest, simplest way for the person selling the product to sell the product. Now, like as a real estate professional, you know far more about real estate than any home buyer would ever know. Is that right? Is that fair?
Very fair, yeah.
And probably everybody on your team knows 1,000 times more about the real estate game than the average consumer does.
They do.
I've bought 5 houses in my life. So I've actually, at my age, owned more houses than most people have.
Yep.
I still don't know what I'm doing. So you have an informational advantage. So unfortunately, in most industries where the service provider has an informational advantage, they have the incentive to exploit.
Yep.
Because they can decide what you should know and they could hold back what you don't know. And you don't know as a consumer what you don't know. And this is true in my industry, every industry I've ever been in. So what we do is we give the consumer more of an informational advantage. So even if they don't do business with us, whoever they do business with, they can say, well, hold on a second. I don't necessarily think we should do it that way. And they'd be like, well, why not? And then they can say with confidence, because these are the issues with that. And then the agent would be like, how do you know that? Well, because we help them understand more of how the industry works and why things are the way they are so they can make a better, more informed decision. Now, here's what's beautiful about this. If we provide them that service and we say, whether you do business with us or somebody else, it makes them more likely to do business with us. Simply because they say, well, you're the only one who's given me an informational advantage, and you've made it easy and convenient for me to get this.
Sure.
So therefore, if I'm going to go with anybody, I'm going to go with you. period. And that's the key to more business. And that's true
It's
in real
huge.
estate, and it's true in every other industry I've ever been in. Yeah.
Absolutely huge. Well, I can tell you this. I'm inspired from listening to you today, from our conversation now. And if you guys are inspired and you're looking for some help designing webinars, how can they get in touch with you?
They can just write into support@rapidcrush.com. So Rapid Crush is my company. Just drop us an email, support@rapidcrush.com, and we'll see if we can help you.
Sounds good. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. If you got something out of this, please like and comment below, and also share this with a friend. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for watching our video. I hope you liked it. Give it a quick like below and comment and share. We'd love your feedback. For more videos like this, click here. And to subscribe, click here.